Today we will explore the representation of animals in Shelter, produced by Might and Delight. The game takes place in a completely natural environment, free of human intervention. Yet, there is still some sort of human interaction between the player and virtual animals. Shelter is a game that requires you to play as a mother badger. Within the game, you are given a task that is perhaps the most difficult one that a person can get, the task of taking care of your family. The aim is to protect and feed your cubs as well as leave your old burrow behind in search of a new one. The game proceeds with an increasing risk of losing your cubs, and the objective is to keep them all alive. However, the search for the new burrow is wrought with danger. Your cubs are young and incapable of surviving in the wild on their own. Therefore, you must navigate these dangers while simultaneously keeping your cubs safe. Shelter is not a traditional game. It represents animals in a way that allows you to project human emotions on virtual depictions of animals to help you connect with the game on an emotional level. Animals are represented as delicate beings that are not always expendable as some would expect, and to get this message across, the developers capitalize on the player's emotions. We will analyze the multiple poignant instances in which the game extracts these emotions.
From the get-go, you feel a sense of responsibility for your cubs. To exit the first cave, you must feed your cubs. When your cubs are hungry, they turn gray and lose color. This is a visual cue that you must feed them or they will die. In addition, you must lead your cubs through many dangers, including the dark, a violent river, a burning forest, and past predators. At first, the mother badger can run faster than the cubs and must wait for them to catch up. The cubs following the mother through every step of the game, and if she puts them in danger, they are helpless and willing to follow. By the end, though, the cubs can catch up with their mother. Humans, when given something to protect, will generally feel responsible for it. The loss of a cub makes the player feel guilty, and as if they are at fault. People tend not to enjoy this feeling of guilt, and thus will try their best to avoid the loss of their cubs during the game. Since loss is inevitable in Shelter, there is no way to avoid this sense of grief and guilt.
One of the most defining features of humans is our sense of family. We do anything and everything to ensure that no harm comes to those we care about. The makers of Shelter exploit this particular human emotion to form a bond between the player and the cubs. People say that a mother's love is unconditional. And when you play this game, you not only understand what that phrase truly means, but you feel it too. In the game, when you see one of your cubs pale with hunger, or when you hear them whimpering out of fear, you feel the maternal instinct within you that you may not even have known existed. You get worried if one of your cubs is out of your sight for even a second. One of the most difficult events a human could go through is the loss of a child. Many parents who have lost a child say that they can only go on because of a need to take care of their other children. Through the game, if you lose a cub, you feel absolutely crushed. For a second, you lose the will to carry on, but then you remember that you have 4 other cubs counting on you, and that's what keeps you going. This mirrors human behavior. While most people playing the game have not lost a child, they can still imagine the loss, and thus this fear of a loss causes an intense emotional response.
The developers of the game rely on aesthetics and audio to rid the game of the superficial aspects of gameplay and draw your attention to the more personal human emotions. The game uses soft pastel colors and basic geometric shapes to represent complex objects of nature, such as trees, fire, or even a river. This makes the game look like an art piece worthy of being displayed. Upon seeing that the game isn't trying to look like real life, you're drawn into the deeper, less superficial aspects that the game highlights. If the designers had chosen to use high-definition computer images, the player would get caught up in these graphics. However, thanks to this intentional choice of artistic graphics, the player is able to focus on the emotional aspect of the game. Furthermore, dramatic, suspenseful music is played whenever danger is encountered. While joyful melodies are played when the cubs are fed. When escaping the burning forest, you feel the adrenaline flow inside you, with intense music playing in the background. When you traverse the forest at night, you're put on the edge of your seat by an eerie tune. The game may relax you with calm music as you walk through the wilderness, only to violently disrupt that composure with fast-paced music when danger looms. The cubs whimper when they are lost or hungry, and it breaks your heart, but you are filled with joy when they chirp happily on being safe or well-fed. These sounds further the human projection of emotions onto animals, personalizing the gaming experience. You do not know for sure what the badger actually feels or perceives, and that isn't the aim of the game. However, as a human, you naturally relate a crying or whining sound to the need for attention, and a playful one to the sense of joy. Your experiences with these sounds in your own life make you relive them when you play the game, deepening your feelings for the cubs and their lives.
One might argue that even in Shelter, animals are often portrayed as expendable. Examples include the instances when the mother badger hunts frogs, foxes, and even mice to feed her cubs. So why are those animals portrayed as expendable? We can also mention the devastating ending, in which the mother, arguably the most important character in the game, is violently snatched by an eagle. So why is that? How can a heroic mother be portrayed in such a manner? The answer is revealed throughout the game, and especially at the very end, when we see the eagle bring the mother badger to her own babies. After all, wasn't the mother hunting to prevent her cubs from dying of hunger? The scene shows us that the message of the game is not compromised just because animals are shown to be hunted by other animals. In fact, it introduces the concept of the circle of life. Just as the mother hunts for her badger cubs, the eagle hunts for her younger ones too. Nature is based on the circle of life, but that definitely does not mean that animals are expendable.
Altogether, every aspect of Shelter is designed to draw in and evoke emotion from the player, from the role taken on as the mother to the visual and oral details that define the game. As a result of the intense emotional connection to the cubs, each loss is taken very personally. Although the game is about animals, it really gives us an idea of human culture. Might and Delight knows that people are more likely to identify with human emotions rather than those of an animal. However, since there are no humans in the game, we put ourselves in the mother's shoes and project our emotions onto her. Knowing that, we can affirm that the game gives us insight into how society thinks we should feel about children. If a video game can make a person care so much about a collection of pixels on a screen, how much more should people care about living, breathing animals that are affected every day? Shelter sends a powerful message. Animals are not expendable. In caring for our own lives and families, we cannot forget that we have an impact on the animals that are trying to do the same.